very big news has just come out today that this is the last race for Jolyon Palmer at Renault. Effectively, as of Sunday, he will be replaced by the driver for 2018 season, Carlos Sainz Jr. And the seat at Toro Rosso will be replaced by Daniil, who was recently replaced by Pierre Gasly for the Malaysian Grand Prix. So interesting that didn't take too long for Daniil to get back in the Toro Rosso. Maybe they had planned this for a long time and it was just a formality to put Pierre Gasly into the seat as soon as possible, with Kyvat being able to race not that race, not the next race, but effective as of the US Grand Prix. So he may have had this insider knowledge already. Thus the reason why he hasn't come out in the press at all to talk about the decision that Toro Rosso made at the last Grand Prix. Probably because he knew that he would be getting the race seat as of the US Grand Prix. So that could be the reason for his silence, and the fact that he hasn't come out and said anything to the media about the fact that he had recently been kicked out of Toro Rosso. Palmer has had a very difficult time this year at Renault, and I do feel for him because he really has tried very hard. It just wasn't his time, unfortunately. With a career best of 6th place finish at the Singaporean Grand Prix and 1 point at Malaysia this year, it hasn't been enough to effectively secure his drive for next season at Renault. It has been said that Renault have been trying to get rid of him for about 7 months now. However, he's declined every time, even with generous payouts being laid on the table. It just wasn't enough, and obviously he was fighting to keep in Formula One in order to try and secure more points and obviously impress other teams, which he may have done. However, he's limited for options in Formula One. It's highly unlikely that he's going to get the drive at Williams, and there are no other empty seats on the grid for next season. So it looks like he will not be in Formula One for next season. Now, I believe what sweetened the deal for Palmer, thus leading to his exit after this Grand Prix this weekend, is the possible option of an EDAM's Formula E drive for next season, with the Renault team in Formula E. They might have sweetened the deal by offering this opportunity to him along with a very generous payout. It's probably the best offer he's going to get, so it was probably an offer he could not refuse, thus the reason why he's ended his career at Renault early. Last season, he seemed to be very competitive when benchmarked against his teammate Kevin Magnussen, outperforming him towards the end of the season most races. However, this year he just hasn't been able to outpace Hulkenberg on most races and weekends. He's proved too big of a match for him, unfortunately. Hulkenberg is an incredibly talented driver, and I was under no illusions that he would outpace him this season. It's said that he's about 0.6 seconds slower than him in quali pace, and unfortunately he's only secured 8 points this season, and when you compare that to his teammate Hulkenberg's 34 points, that is quite a substantial gap for two drivers racing in the same team, effectively pretty much the exact same car. So it just isn't enough, unfortunately. So it is a shame that it had to end this way. However, I understand why Renault are so eager to get Carlos Sainz Jr. into the team before the end of the season, so that they can give him the opportunity to jump into the car, get a feel for it, get to work with the mechanics and engineers and the team he'll be working with next year, to ensure that during the gap between the end of this year's season and next season, he can focus more on getting to understand the upgrades that Renault will deliver on the engines, the supposed secret magic button they're going to come up with for next season, and also understand the new 2018 car, rather than mess around with getting to know the mechanics, getting to know the factory, getting to know the engineers, getting to know Renault's systems, procedures. He can just dive straight into the car and there's no faffing about. So I can understand why they did that, and I can understand why Pierre Gasly replaced Kyvat for pretty much the exact same reason. So yeah, I mean, you can't hold it against Renault for making this decision. So join in with the debate, write comments, share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to keep up with all the latest information. And I will be covering and commentating live the Grand Prix tomorrow at Japan, being able to give you live information in real time and what's going on at the circuit, just in case you don't have access to